Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk about how to improve your success on ultra clear and ultra pressured bodies of water. These are honestly some of my favorite types of bodies of water to fish. I think they're some of the most difficult fish to catch to begin with anytime you're talking about extremely clear water, but when you throw in a lot of angling pressure, those fish are the toughest fish in the country to catch, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I love to fish for them. I truly believe that if you can catch them under those conditions, you can go anywhere and catch them. And I've got 5 really good tips for you that will help you catch fish under those pressured clear water conditions that, in my opinion, will improve your catch rate dramatically.
Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced Stream Flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water.
So the first thing you need to do anytime you're fishing these conditions is make long casts. The longer the cast, the better. And what I mean by that is if you're going down the bank making a 30-foot long cast, you've probably got a lot of fish that are spooking before you even make that cast because they know you're there. The longer the cast allows you to present the bait to fish that are not aware of your boat's presence yet. And from that standpoint, you will get a lot more fish that are not already aware of you, and therefore they're still in an active feeding mode. So the longer the cast, the better. And again, a lot of times when you're talking about fishing these conditions, you may not be able to make that long of a cast. So doing little things to improve your casting distance is actually really important. So the first thing you need to do is improve your casting distance. You want to make a longer cast. So maybe if you're going down the bank fishing docks or laydown, instead of being 30 or 50 feet, set up as far away as you can and still make a presentation to that dock or that piece of cover as accurately as possible. Maybe you're going down a weed line or you've got a long tapering point. Set up as far away as you can to still be able to fish that stuff accurately. It's very, very important to be able to do that. So the second thing I want to talk about then kind of goes along with the idea of making long casts, and that is to drop down in line size. In my opinion, anglers, if you're throwing 6 or 8 pound tests, for the majority of Clearwater presentations, that's plenty in terms of how heavy of a line you need. You probably don't need 15-pound test. You probably don't need anything greater than that. The reality is 10, 8, 6 are my go-tos in Clearwater presentations. Now, obviously, if I'm flipping, milfoil and it's gin clear pressured conditions, I'm going to go with a braided line because you still got to get them out of it. But if you're talking about fishing topwater baits or the majority of your moving baits, anything from that 6 to 12-pound test will be fine. If you go heavier than that, you're probably going to limit the number of bites you get just because the fish are aware of the bait, and you're not going to have that casting distance that I'm talking about. The lighter the line, generally you improve your casting distance. So I highly recommend dropping down at least one size in what you would normally use. If you like throwing 15-pound fluorocarbon, drop down to 12. If you like throwing 12, drop down to 10. I think you'll see that you get more bites as you drop down in line size under Clearwater pressured conditions. Very, very important. Another thing I like to do is drop either way down in bait size or go really big in bait size. Now, generally, if you go very large, you're going to see a lot of fish. You're not going to connect with a lot of fish. So 95% of the time, I like to go with really small presentations. Again, I treat it similar to how I would treat your line size. I like to drop down in my bait size. So if you like throwing, say, a 4-inch flipping bait, cross style bait, go with a 3-inch. If you like throwing a full-size jig, go with a compact jig. If you like throwing, big chatterbaits, switch down to a small-size chatterbait. The point here is, generally speaking, you get more bites with smaller presentations under these really tough conditions. Now, I don't know if that's because the fish are more willing to bite a small bait. I don't know if it's because small baits tend to have faster movements. I don't know if it's because small baits are harder for the fish to determine as being something that's not a natural forage for them. But I do know you generally get more bites with a smaller presentation. So just keep that in mind. Now, that goes back to making those long casts. If you're throwing small baits, a lot of times you're not getting that distance that you'd like to do. So in some instances, maybe you want to add a little bit of weight to that profile to be able to cast it longer. Maybe you can, add, like if you're throwing a hair jig, you can add a little piece of plastic under the actual marabou material to get it to cast further. There's little things that you can do. Maybe it's just a matter of going with a longer rod to be able to actually fire that bait out a little bit further. But I truly believe under these tough conditions, the smaller the bait, the smaller the profile, the more bites that you're going to get. Now, I will say one other type of bait that I really like to throw in these Clearwater tough conditions is a topwater bait. Generally, topwater baits are really good at drawing fish from a long distance away. And in clear water, those fish can see that bait from 15, 20 feet away, and you can draw them from really deep water as well. So the power of the topwater, in my opinion, excels in that really clear water. The reason I like it when you're also talking about really pressured conditions is, one, I don't feel like a lot of anglers throw topwater in really heavily pressured lakes, but I also feel like the fish just don't get a good look at that bait. They see something making commotion, they see a profile, they're a lot of times more willing to hit a bait that's on the surface than a subsurface bait. It just, I think it comes down to they can't get a really good look at it. They think it's a dying forage species, and they'll bite that versus biting a swim bait or something they get a really good look at. So do not sleep on topwater baits during this time, this type of tough fishing scenario. And then lastly, speed is your friend. Now, you can fish finesse baits fast, but still do it slow and effectively. So I'm not necessarily just saying you need to cast your bait out and work it fast. Now, absolutely, that works really well if you've got the right bait. So If you're fishing a crankbait, work it faster. If you're fishing a topwater bait, try working it faster. If you're fishing a swim jig or a swim bait, try working it faster. Don't just necessarily slow roll it. You want to work it fast. You want to impart some quick movements with your rod tip, some extra reel handle turns to create some erratic movement in your bait. But you want to work it fast. Burn a spinner bait. That's a great technique in really clear water too. But having said that, if you're fishing a bait that you normally would fish slow, say a jig, or say a Ned rig, you can still impart speed into your retrieve without moving your bait fast. And what I mean by that is, if you let it go to the bottom, don't just drag it slow. Give it a quick wrist pop to get that bait to explode off the bottom and then fall back to the bottom. That quick movement, that when you put that speed into that bait, clear water fish have a hard time denying that. And the pressured fish have a hard time denying it because their instincts kick in and they go into a feeding mode even if they're not actively feeding. So whether you're actually burning a bait back or whether you're fishing a slow bait, but imparting speed into your retrieve, you have to remember how valuable that is. These tips, I'm telling you guys, if you utilize these tips the next time you go out, fish a clear body of water that gets a lot of pressure, if you do this, you will get a lot more bites. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you have other tips that guys can utilize from you as well? I should say anglers. I'd say guys in general. I get some comments where people are like, you got to stop saying guys. I apologize for that. Other anglers, if you have other tips for other anglers that they can use to catch more bass, please share it in the comment section. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.